All right, welcome to Words of the Wise. I am so excited to have Chief Darrell Lowe from Redmond PD in Washington. Chief Lowe has over 33 years of experience in law enforcement, and he has some interesting perspectives on wellness and innovative wellness initiatives that he's a part of. And I'm so excited for him to share those insights and his wealth of knowledge with you all. So, welcome to the show, Chief Lowe. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I want to give our listeners some context. I know you said you've been on the job for over 33 years. Give me some background. How did you get started? Why law enforcement? And walk me through those 33 years of experience.
So I started my law enforcement journey in Santa Monica, California. I worked down there for about 27 and a half years. Retired from there as a captain in charge of investigations. Spent probably more than half of that time on the investigative side of the house. Was given the opportunity in 2019 to come and lead the Redmond, Washington Police Department. Folks may be familiar with Redmond. It's home to Microsoft, so that's kind of our big company. But Redmond is very much a tech hub for the Pacific Northwest. So all of the big known companies have a presence here in Redmond. Meta, Amazon, like I said, mentioned Microsoft, SpaceX, et cetera. So for the last 5.5 years, I've had the opportunity to lead the women and men of the Redmond Police Department and bring about innovation and technology and those types of things to the wellness things that we'll talk about in this podcast.
Awesome. And did you always know from an early age that you wanted to be in law enforcement, or what was that defining moment for you where you made that decision to hop 2 feet in?
Actually, when I started college, I was a business major and I wanted to do what we refer to now as mergers and acquisitions. Growing up, my favorite movie still is the original Wall Street. It's a
Okay.
zero-sum game, so I wanted to do that. I was around, law enforcement and probably if you call it the defining moment. So for me, educationally, one of those defining moments was I failed a macroeconomics class, and because I failed the class, I had to meet with the teacher, and we spent time talking about careers and paths and whatnot. And being a young college student, I realized that a sociology degree had three fewer classes, which meant I got out of college sooner. And sociology wasn't nearly as competitive as the business program. So I changed my major the next day, majored in sociology with an emphasis in criminology. And that started me down that path to law enforcement. And then at the time, the young lady I was dating, her roommate was with the Los Angeles Police Department. So I got to experience his rookie year with the LAPD, and that
Wow.
really helped solidify because he would come home, with the stories and those different things. And at the end of the day, it was about people and helping people, and so that pulled me there. And here I sit, 30 plus years later.
That's so awesome. So a failed test in college brought you to where you are today.
I actually failed the course, so it wasn't just one test.
Oh, okay.
I bombed the entire course. Yes, it was a failure that brought me here.
And it's so interesting because we talked about this a little bit offline about like how you can learn and grow from failures and having that adaptability to be like, you know what, like let me learn from this and then choose something different or something that might be a better fit for me. And so I think that that's a learning lesson for everyone to be like, there's always that silver lining on the other end, even if you totally bomb a course, there's, 33 years of successful law enforcement career on the other end of it. So
Yeah, failure doesn't define you. It's an opportunity to grow and develop. And I'd say, not make the same mistakes. Not make the same mistake or mistakes. Twice. Learn from it, grow, develop. And again, there's always something or a lesson to be learned. Even from a failure.
100%. So fast forward, you did the majority of your career in California, and then you had the opportunity to become chief in Redmond, Washington. There's this conversation in law enforcement a lot about your why and knowing your why and using that to, get you through your career and to thrive throughout your career. I know that wellness is a passion of yours. And so, what was that why for you? Why was wellness a priority, or why was it important for you to prioritize your wellness over that long career?
I heard somewhere along the way, and it was, probably from somebody much smarter than myself. But I heard an expression about law enforcement, and it said, this job will change you. The goal is to not let the job break you. Um,
Mm,
as we've learned a lot more, about wellness and about, vicarious trauma and different things, and understanding that first responders, or everyone that operates in this first responder world, is subjected to significantly more trauma, than the average person. Over the course of time, we actually acknowledge that now and talk about it, and we say it's okay not to be okay.
yeah.
30 plus years ago, when I came into the profession, you didn't talk about how you felt. You didn't talk about that call bothered you. But unfortunately, especially on the law enforcement side, we deal with people on their worst days. We deal with, and we see the things that human beings do to one another. That's not normal. The accountant doesn't have that experience, the banker, et cetera, but we do. And for far too long, we didn't deal with it. You were told to, suck it up, buttercup, deal with it. Those that have been around for a while will remember there was a thing called choir practice. That was how you dealt with it. And that was not healthy. And we saw the impacts, on first responders, be it substance abuse, be it, relationship problems, financial problems, self-harm, all these things. And I think really it forced us to deal with the elephant in the room. And now it's okay. It's encouraged to talk about it. It's okay to say, yeah, that bothers me.
Yeah.
What I saw today, I'm not okay with that. And just even talking about it or acknowledging the fact that it bothers you is helpful. That's healing, as opposed to just stuffing it down and repressing it, because at some point it's going to represent itself. Whereas now, again, it's commonplace. It's okay, from an organizational perspective. If you have, that traumatic call, organizations now recognize we need to pull these people offline, even for a short period of time, just for a check-in. Hey, are you okay? Hey, do you want to talk to somebody, or to set up a critical incident debriefing? So the individuals that were involved in the event can share their perspectives of that event, because even though, say, you and I were on that same significant call, your perspective may be different than mine, because I stand 6'2", you stand 5'7", you were on the left, I was on the right. We're going to get those inputs differently. So I think that is in large part that we are much better at acknowledging it.
100%. And I agree with you that great strides have been made over the last 10 years, even. I mean, when I started in wellness 8 years ago, it was a lot of head scratching and, this isn't a part of our culture. And we can see that progress that's happened over the years. And one of the common threads that I've heard from leadership like yourself is talking about it. And you brought that up, is like starting there, like talking about it and being able to feel safe enough within your organization to say this impacted me, and I might need resources for XYZ. Was that the one thing that helped you throughout your career, or was there one thing that you did? Because, obviously, like you said, back then there weren't the resources like there are now. So how did you offload all of that stress and trauma, and how did you, get through without it impacting you? Were there any sort of resources that you used yourself?
Yeah, I'll say I'm not and was not immune from being impacted, by things and calls and whatnot. And over the course of time, I think in part, I'll say friends and family having faith base, was also helpful. But then also embracing therapy and other things. to understand it, talk about it, and it's been a process or an evolution because again, going 3 decades into it. When I started, it wasn't what it is today. So a lot of that was, you didn't talk about it. It was okay. You weren't allowed to acknowledge your emotions or feelings or whatnot. You just powered through.
Right.
But part of that evolution, both I'll say as a profession, the evolution, as a leader or a student of leadership and working up through organizations, you get different perspectives on things and you have different understandings. The agency that I came from, we had a national, even an international event where we had an elderly gentleman have made pedal error and drove through our farmers market, killing multiple people, injuring hundreds of others. That was a very defining moment, both for me personally and for that organization. We had a peer support program. We had resources available, and having participated, in those debriefs, at the time, I said it was newer, but did it. And looking back, on that, that has played a critical role. Because that wasn't the only or the first critical incident. We had an active shooter at a college. We've had a lot of those things that I was a part of in that organization, but we had tools and resources. Fast forward now, as the head of an agency, we have a very robust peer support program. We have an internal wellness coordinator, and then I'm working right now on a statewide executive wellness initiative and program for the entire state. So I think that is kind of part of the evolution, having had firsthand experience with traumatic events, having gone through and participated, in critical incident, debriefings and the like, is kind of what got me to where I am today.
And we talked about this offline, but I would love to dive into your executive wellness program, and then, talk about how that impacts your organizational program as well. So this is the one thing in the intro where I was like, this is so interesting because I haven't had any conversations with leadership that focused on wellness for command staff, for executives at the top, and how that impacts the way that you lead and you represent your organization community. So, can you dive into it? You're going to explain it way better than me, but I know last time when we talked, I was like, that is so interesting. And I think a lot of people are going to find it interesting as well.
Of course. So I got to give credit where credit is due. We brought in large part from California. California is leaps and bounds ahead in the executive wellness space and arena. I also give a shout out or acknowledgement to Colorado. Colorado has a very robust executive wellness program. They refer to it as a chief circle.
Mm.
So based on that, we saw the need for it here, in the state of Washington. Reached out, to colleagues and networks and start talking. Hey, what are you guys doing? How did you do it? Had some meetings. The International Association of Chiefs of Police have had at our annual conference. They've had a number of sessions about wellness and executive wellness. So the need has been identified. And so what we've done at the state level is through our state chiefs and sheriffs association, we've created a framework for what the policy looks like, modeled after California, what the selection criteria is, what the expectations are for participation. And then just 2 months ago, actually 3 months ago now, we held our first executive, they call it CISM, Critical Incident Stress Management certification. So we certified the first 10 chiefs and sheriffs as peer supporters, because in order to have the legal protections and the confidentiality, you have to be a certified peer supporter. And why that is important is, while I as a chief may have other chiefs that I feel comfortable talking to or have my own network, we don't have, or they would not have, the legal protections and confidentiality that a
Mm.
peer supporter does. And unfortunately, we've seen circumstances around the countries where, police chiefs have attempted or completed, self-harm and suicide and those things. And we have a way too high suicide rate within the first response community. And then just understanding if I, as the executive, am not okay, then how can I take care of the individuals that, I'm responsible for taking care of? And then I think the benefit that it has for internally is going through the same certification that my peer support team goes through. It gives me a better appreciation and understanding of A, what the requirements are, B, how hard it is. But then now they have a person who's walked in their shoes and can support them. So as I was completing my certification, I was sending a text to my peer support team leader, and I told him, I go, you guys are in trouble now. I go, because I'm a peer supporter now too. But the team thought that that was so awesome that their chief is actually one of them went through the same classes, and I said, we need to double up the number of trainings we do each year. They're like, really, chief? I'm like, oh, absolutely, because when I sat through the class, I didn't understand how difficult it was. It's difficult to talk to a person, in crisis because, as a law enforcement person for so long, we problem solve. We come in for solution, and as a peer supporter, it's about listening. It's about creating that safe space because you want to solve that problem for them. And you're not there to solve the problem. You're there to provide a safe space and to listen and to provide the appropriate resources, to the individual. But having that understanding that that's a game changer internally and for, my peer support team.
I love that. And it makes them feel like you're seeing them and hearing them and, part of the team. And so I think that that's fantastic. I was hoping that you could maybe dive a little bit deeper into the need for the executive wellness program and peer support, because there might be some people who maybe don't fully understand, the reasoning behind it. And when we talked about this, I found that to be really fascinating and something that I didn't personally think about. So would you be able to dive into that need that you said was identified?
So the need is, as a chief or sheriff or an agency head, you're responsible for it. In my case, I'm responsible for 138 staff members, a significant budget, and the safety and security of a community of 80,000 people. As I don't get to have a bad day, or when I have a bad day, who do I talk to, right? It would be
Right.
inappropriate for me to go talk to, my peer support officer. They're not going to understand that part or piece. But then at the executive level, if I go talk to another chief or sheriff and let's just say, I'm struggling, be it, substance abuse or ideations of harm or different things like that, if they are not a peer supporter, they don't have the protections, they don't have the confidentiality. And two, even at all levels of the organization, it comes down to trust.
Yeah.
So even though you have a peer support program, what you will often hear from staff members is that there is a lack of trust or a mistrust of sharing such personal, information because of the stigma that may be associated, with some of those things. So to have a peer, literally another chief or executive that is a certified peer supporter that you can trust that legally cannot disclose what was said unless it involves harm to self, harm to others. That relieves some of that pressure, some of that stigma, but it also provides an avenue for individuals. It's no different than say our community members, utilizing 988. So you have somebody that you can reach out to, for that need. So that's part why it's really important. And then two, if the agency head is not well, then the decision making, at the top, or the lack of decision making, it can manifest itself in a lot of ways. And again, it has significant impacts because as the agency head, like I said, there's 130 plus people that count on me to make reasonable decisions. They're
Right.
they're not going to agree with the decision, but at least needs to be reasonable, or I at least need to make the decision. And then there's 80,000 people in this community, who have empowered me to keep them safe. And so, in order for me to do my job, effectively and efficiently, I have to operate on all cylinders. I have to be able to decompress. I have to be able to talk about things that bother me, or frustrations, or those types of things. And this provides, an avenue, or a platform or a mechanism for that, in a safe space. Because, as I say, the higher up you go, the less you do, but the more you're responsible for, and it gets lonely at the top, right? Because there's only so many chiefs, there's only so many people for you to talk to.
And I was going to say that that was the one thing that came to my mind when you were talking about this is how incredibly isolating that must feel to not feel like you have anyone to go to. And you are in leadership and you are the chief. You're also a human being and need resources for your wellness. And so I think that having a network of other chiefs and sheriffs that you can talk to that are certified where it's safe and confidential is a fantastic idea. So thank you so much for sharing that. I want to talk a little bit about now your organization, your department, and the wellness programming that you are offering for your employees, because we talked a little bit about this before, but I think the West Coast is kind of leading the charge. You mentioned it before, California, Colorado, Washington, Oregon. There are still a lot of states in the US that are still in the infancy stages of building a program. And the more conversations I have, the more I realize that a lot of people don't know where to start or don't know what to do. And so if you're willing to share some insights into programming and initiatives that you've done that one, maybe you've tried that weren't very successful, and maybe ones that you've tried that were really successful so that other leaders who are listening to this can learn from you.
So first, you have to buy into it, and understand your why behind it, right? Because we need to keep the women and men that are doing the job, the boots on the ground. We need to keep them, healthy and safe and deployable, right? Because again, as we know, again, the vicarious trauma that our staff experience over the course of their career is significantly more than the normal person. We all know about the recruiting and retention challenges in law enforcement across the board. So we need to do everything we can to keep our people healthy and deployable, because it takes a significant amount of time and a significant amount of money to train and bring a police officer, online. So it's a good return on investment if you think of it as like a extended warranty plan on a car, or a maintenance. We need to invest in the maintenance, of our people. So once that commitment is made, then obviously everything costs money. So it's identifying, a budget, or going to, city council, finance, county board of supervisors, whoever your funding authority is, to get funding for it. There are a number of programs and countries. I'll call them companies that are like third-party entities that can provide that service for you, and there may be a benefit or a space there because they are one step removed. Many departments do have internal peer support programs at the line level for those critical incident debriefings. If you have that, then you have, again, it comes back down to investing in it and giving them the time and resources to do the training. Again, it's expensive to take them offline to backfill and all those things. But if you're going to have it, then it's all in. It can't be a 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Oh, we're not going to train this quarter, or we can't train this time, because that doesn't keep the team highly functioning. It's a perishable skill, so they need that quarterly training, those quarterly exercises, to stay sharp and be able to interact. And then again, once you do that, you commit to it. Then you have to, have the appropriate selection process, make sure you have the right people that are part of the team. And that too can be challenging, because sometimes people raise their hand and want to do it. You have to make sure they're doing it for the right reason.
Mm.
First, and then second, you have to make sure that they are, I'll say, trusted and respected within the organization, because you may have a person that has a desire to do it, but they don't resonate well, or they're not well received by the line level staff. So if that person is the peer support, you'll hear, I wouldn't talk to that guy about the weather outside.
Yeah.
Not the person you want on your peer support team. Conversely, you have that person that's like, oh, just rock solid, et cetera. So just make sure that you have the right people on the team, the right selection criteria. But then also you have to keep your team healthy, right? So you have to recognize, interact, and again, as a chief or agency head, you may not be able to be intimately involved at all levels of it, but then just to make sure you have the right, managerial or supervisory oversight of the team, and that they check in and make sure that the team itself is okay, because sometimes you may have to unplug a team member for a period of time so they themselves can stay, healthy and be able to do it. And then two, to make sure that your team leader has access to you as the agency head, right?
Mm.
They have to maintain confidence, but they need to be able to tell you, hey, chief, that this squad, this unit, yeah, we probably need to, take them offline, or we probably need to, address this or that without revealing the confidences. And then, knowing that as the agency head, you will make, those appropriate decisions. For smaller departments, it may be difficult to, have your own team, but then try and partner up with the, MOU or ILA with a different department to provide those services for you. So you don't have to go it alone, and you don't have to recreate the wheel, because there are a number of existing programs, policies, frameworks. I mentioned earlier the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I'm sure in their toolbox or toolkit, there's probably a model policy and those different things. Or anyone can feel free to reach out to me directly, and I can share, our policy with them. If an agency is a Lexipol agency, Lexipol has a language as part of their policy manual that deals with some of these aspects. And then lastly, you can, again, I mentioned you can do it internally or externally. So for my department, we have a peer support team made up of commissioned police officers and support staff. We also have a internal wellness coordinator. So this
Mm.
wellness coordinator is a like a licensed clinical social worker and a mental health professional. So they have the appropriate licensing, and they oversee the peer support team. So they are the licensed clinician that can actually do those debriefings, but is also a resource for them. But then equally as important, can refer them out. So if an employee comes and talks to them, they can refer them to another clinician, for help or those types of things. And then there are, again, like I said, like third party companies, like think of telehealth, that can run that program for you on, either like a yearly contract basis or on a per usage basis, if you don't have an ongoing need, or if you cannot afford a in-house person.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, as a recap, a very short recap, I know you said a lot, but invest in your people, talk and listen to your people. And when you do that, you're going to retain them and keep them healthier and um, happier.
Yeah, and I would say this: you as the agency head, um, have to communicate with your people, and I know it's kind of a tagline or a hashtag, but it's okay not to be okay, right? If a person is not okay, you don't want that person out patrolling in your community. You want to get that person the help they need, because at the end of the day, we are responsible for those that work for us. That is what our job truly is as leaders, is taking care of the women and men that work for us. It's not about titles and this and that. It's about taking care of the people that you're charged with taking care of, and that means ensuring that they have the resources necessary. To I'll say to be healthy. I won't say to be happy, because we know
Yeah,
that's your cost. They need to
happier.
yeah, they need the resources to be healthy,
Yeah.
and that's really what our job is to take care of our people.
Yep, 100%. I wanted to get your opinion on buy-in. I heard you say that earlier, like you need your people bought in, and that's a word that is used a lot, is buy-in in different contexts. Either there's no buy-in or you need to get the buy-in, and I would love to hear like what your insights are on buy-in.
So I think with buying, it comes down to this. I say often. A third of the people love you, a third of the people hate you, a third of the people don't care. They just want to get paid on time. So I think that that kind of sums up buy-in. So if you put the program together, you will have some people that will understand it, will believe in it. You will have some people that are skeptics, and no matter what you do, they're not going to believe it. They're not going to believe that it's confidential, it's safe, it's that type of thing. And for others, it has to be demonstrated. And it starts with you as the agency head, acknowledging that, again, it's okay not to be okay. Acknowledging that wellness is a real thing, that mental health is a real thing, emotional health is a real thing, and then providing the resources necessary. You can't make them partake in it, but I think you're remiss if you don't provide the opportunities for it. You had mentioned earlier about initiatives or programs that tried to bring online that didn't work. So as part of wellness, not just the mental health part, is the physical health part. Is gyms or gym memberships or being able to work out on duty. Financial health is another one. But personal finance is just that. It's very personal. So we were awarded a grant. From a state agency around wellness, and one of the components of it was financial health. So we put out an RFP, we found a company, and we provided like webinars around personal finance, and provided the opportunity for one-on-one, meetings with this financial planner, financial counselor. Uh, in a department, we had 81 sworn or 81 commissioned officers. We had 6 people show up to the initial webinar, and we had 2 people actually follow through with the one-on-one counseling, that was available. So some would say, that was a failure, not as successful, but those were our numbers. But the way I looked at it was, as I say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right.
The organization provided this resource. If you chose to utilize it, that was great. If you chose not to, that's an individual choice which you're allowed to make. But you then can't come back and say that the department didn't take it seriously, that we didn't provide resources for you. So I think that's where the buy-in comes in, is that you have to walk the talk. And if you say that you believe in wellness, then you have to provide those resources, to your staff, to the degree that you can afford it or get grants for it or whatever. Because again, everything comes down to cost. But it shows a good faith effort on the organization's part to address all aspects of wellness, not just the mental portion of it, or the incident debrief, but the financial piece, the health, portion of it, be it a nutritionist, a number of aspects of total wellness for your staff.
And I completely agree with you that, of course, you can't make people do something. But I think the important part is that if and when someone needs something, it's there, because we know that someone might be okay today, but they're not okay tomorrow. And then when they're not okay tomorrow and there's no resources, what happens then? And, I have personal experiences with that where, like, I was fine. I was always a person that was fine. I'm good. Everything's good. And then one day you wake up and everything's crashing and you're like, oh no, I need something. And so, to your point, putting in place programs that are well received by some, knowing that in the future, others might also gravitate towards that in times of need. So I appreciate that insight a lot.
One of the things that's talking, and there's a lot of talk around culturally competent.
Mm,
That concept or issue gets thrown around, and that is important because police culture is very different than other parts, and there aren't that many I'll say certified or true like police psychologists or whatnot. That's another area to be mindful of. But then the other part too is as leaders of organizations, how do we help develop culturally confident people? Well, part of that is being willing to open up your organization to individuals that have the desire to learn our culture. We need to open our doors up and let them see behind the curtain, and to better understand, because if they don't understand us, then we can't then go, oh, well, they're not competent. Well, let's help them gain that competence. and or when you find culturally competent folks, that part is good as well. And then kind of piggybacking on the buy-in part or piece, just every city has an employee assistance program. You will oftentimes hear that, again, the trust and the buy-in to EAP is not great because they oftentimes feel that somehow it's going to get back to the city that they've, resourced it in different things. One of the things we did at my agency down in California, we had a local uh, clinician do blind billing for us. So we had a budget line item that any employee, officer, or support could go to any licensed clinician and have the first 3 sessions of therapy paid for by the city, no questions asked. So we had the administrator of the blind billing. They just had to say, "I'm Darrell Lowe. I'm a police officer with Santa Monica. Here's the bill from Dr. Jones." They would look at it. They would verify that Dr. Jones was a licensed clinician. They would scrub any personal identifying information. They would send it to the city and say, "You need to pay Dr. Jones for this visit for an employee." And that's how you create buy-in. That's how you create trust and confidence, in the program and make it okay for people to seek the help that they need. And then understanding with that blind billing administrator was that the city would cover the first 3, but then any if there was treatment needed beyond that, then it needed to transfer over to the medical benefits and the things that already exist. So it was encouraging healthy behavior. It was removing the financial hurdle or barrier or whatnot, but then also having something in place for longer term care if that was needed.
I love that. And I think that it goes back to what you had said earlier about creating that trust and safety where they feel confident that they can go somewhere and there is confidentiality and knowing that it's not going to cost them their job or it's not going to get back to you or, someone else in leadership. So I do think that that is very important for there to be trusted partners. And when you said that working with law enforcement is different, I was like, I know. Like I was like, for sure. But I do agree with you that there are so many people who are passionate that want to help and can do help. And so I think that is great if you have the ability to open your doors to people and allow them to learn. It just builds the resources. And that's the most important part is that like there should be a wealth of resources that, every agency has access to because there are people who are willing to and who have taken the time to learn and to put in the effort. So I appreciate that insight. So we're reaching the end here. I could talk to you, I think, forever. But I wanted to ask you one final question. And one of the reasons why I started this podcast in the first place is to share your words of wisdom with individuals who are earlier in their career, maybe just starting out. What is a piece of advice that you would give someone who is, earlier in their career that you either took to heart yourself that helped you, or something that maybe you wish you would have known earlier in their career that would have helped you? What words of insight or words of wisdom would you have?
So for the person that's early on in their career, I mentioned it before. This job will change you. The goal is to not let this job break you, because you're going to interact with people on their worst day, be it a victim. You will see the worst that humanity can do to one another, and then just understand that doesn't define everyone. It's bigger than you, and that it's okay not to be okay. And if you need help, ask for help. I'll say that's in the wellness space. That's in the overall space. From an individual space, invest in yourself. Remain curious. Remain a learner. Yes, there's mandated training. There's different things, but don't expect the organization. And don't rely on the organization 100% for your growth and development. Invest in yourself, because that shows a couple things. It shows that you're investing in yourself, but you're also putting in the work. The expression is you have some skin in the game. Yes, it's my job as a leader of an organization for the growth and development of our people and to create those opportunities, but it's a partnership, right? So invest in yourself. I think one of the other pieces of advice, and we talked about failures earlier, learn from your mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice. That there's lessons to be learned, in setback and failure. When it comes to promotion or special assignments, those different types of things, it's very easy when you're selected, but true character is shown when you're not selected because everybody's watching, to include the agency head. The person that gets it, of course, they're happy, they're floating on cloud nine. But if you don't get selected for it, take the time you need to, process it. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be, upset. That's fine. But don't let that define you. But more importantly, if you truly want that promotion, that position, go back and find out why you weren't selected, put in for it again, and make sure they don't tell you the same thing the second time. Right. From a personal perspective, I was passed up multiple times. I died at the top of more promotional lists than I care to admit to on a podcast, but it's true. But each time I went to the chief and found out, what that shortcoming was or why it was I was not being promoted. And I told him, you'll see me again and you may tell me no again, but it's not going to be for the same reason. Right. And I think that would be the advice for career longevity.
Those are great words of advice. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time being here. Thank you for coming on and talking about such an important topic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Paige, for having me.
Of course.